Time now for our Sunday night dose of finance. Joining us, our late news money man, Scott Phillips from Motley Fool. Scott, good evening to you. What can investors expect when the market opens here tomorrow?
Peter, good evening. I wish I had some better news for you. It's not going to be a big fall, but at the moment, the futures are suggesting a fall of just under 0.1%. If there's any positivity, it's US futures actually look positive for their night tomorrow night. So maybe that might give us some confidence tomorrow morning here.
OK, UBS analysts have had some interesting thoughts on A2 Milk following its big fall from favour.
Yeah, I should disclose I own A2 Milk shares, so I'm probably biased there, but I'll try and do my best. It's a really interesting story. The company's basically been stuck with a whole lot of inventory and a massive fall in demand, largely because of the lack of the suitcase trade from Australia into China. They're seeming to get through some of that inventory, at least in UBS's view, and hopefully for them, that'll mean without too much margin pressure, without too much business damage. They're expecting a share price of more than double the current share price, so current shareholders will hope they're right.
OK, Macquarie has also upgraded a couple of notable companies. Do you share their views?
A couple of big names too, Peter. Afterpay and BHP, they don't get all that much bigger in the Australian market at the moment. In Afterpay's case, Macquarie looked out basically to 2030 and said they believe the buy now, pay later space could be worth up to $3.8 trillion with a T in revenue globally. And if that's the case, they expect Afterpay, of course, to remain at the forefront of that industry and do really, really well as a result. They're expecting a share price well over $120 in the fullness of time. I'm not sure I'm that optimistic. There's certainly a definite opportunity and a definite chance for that to happen. But of course, those things, those big numbers, all out that far, you should be taking it with a bit of a grain of salt just in case. OK, next month we get economic growth figures, and this week a couple of key indicators that will help shape that result. And these are really important ones too, Peter, because these are kind of the really nuts and bolts parts of the economy. Firstly, we have construction work. We know construction is really, really important because it not only says, it tells us how we're feeling as potentially homeowners or home builders, but we know also the construction industry creates a heap of jobs. They reckon about 6 jobs are created for every job in the construction industry. It is a real leading indicator. So hopefully that number's positive. Expectations are for a growth of almost 2% in construction work, which is not fantastic in and of itself, but last quarter, we had a 3% growth, which is the highest since 2012. So hopefully that continues. When it comes to private capital expenditure, also expecting some decent numbers there. And again, this is a sense of whether businesses are confident enough to go and spend their own cash to invest for future growth. And again, hopefully a positive number and hopefully good news for the economy.
And Scott, I think we all look to the US for so many things. And this week we can look to the US to see how that economy is recovering.
Yeah, you're dead right, Peter. There's an old saying in the Australian market that when the US sneezes, Australia catches a cold. So the reverse is also true. When the US is doing well, they give us not only a lot of confidence, but honestly, just real dollar value as well. We know if the US consumer economy is doing well, it's great for the rest of the world. At the moment, the GDP numbers out on Thursday, their time, look like they'd be pretty reasonable. Expectations of almost 6%, some of the numbers I've seen. So that would be a great result for the US. And again, as I said, because the US is so vitally important in the global economy, hopefully good news for us here at home.
Scott Phillips, Chief Investment Officer for Motley Fool. Always terrific to have you on our late news. Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, Peter.